Welcome everyone to Farm Manager 2021. Now if you remember here on the channel a few years back, we had a lot of fun with the original Farm Manager 2018. So I can't wait to see what upgrades, improvements, and changes they have made to Farm Manager 2021. I have not played very much of this game at all, just because I really enjoy learning and seeing everything for the first time with you guys. So I spent maybe 5 or 10 minutes in the tutorial just to remind myself of how the game plays a little bit. And then I hopped out and we're recording and doing this together right now. But before we hop into the game world and get our farm growing, let's take a brief look at the available menu options. So we've got continue an existing game. We've got the tutorial, which is going to show you exactly how the game works. So essentially, you are going to create your own farm and then grow it either using animals, fields, growing various crops, manufacturing, and so on. And the tutorial is going to show you a lot of the basic gameplay. I highly recommend that, especially if you are new to the series. The campaign, very similar. It's going to guide you step by step in building your own farm. A great way to determine which areas of the game you really enjoy. For me personally, I enjoy the animals. I enjoy the cows and the goats, sheep, and so on, and making money off of not only those animals themselves, but the products that they produce. That's the area I like. Other people will enjoy building huge fields, working those fields with various farm equipment, and then selling off the products that way. There are a lot of different ways to go in this game, and the campaign can show you some of those different areas and allow you to choose which way you want to go in the future. You also have different scenarios where you have certain goals to reach based on starting conditions. And then the mode that I love, the free mode, where I can go, they give me a certain amount of money and some starting land, and I can go whatever direction I want. That's where we're going to be spending our time. And then, of course, you can load a save game. And then let's briefly take a look at the settings. Now, the settings are going to be fairly minimal in this game because this game is all about building a farm. It's not really so much about the graphics. So you notice in the graphics section, we really don't have a lot to look at. I'll be running this on 1080p monitor in full screen mode. VSync is on by default, so I'll leave it on, but generally I'm a little leery of VSync overall in games. And by default, it has put me on high as opposed to very high. Now, my computer is about 6 or 7 years old at this point, so it is by no means a high-powered computer. My processor is an i5, again, from about 6 or 7 years ago, and my graphics card is a GTX 1070. So, again, certainly not any one of the newer generation computers, and certainly not high power, but still we're on the high graphics quality overall. Audio, master volume, I've turned down a little bit, and the music I've turned completely off. Not because I don't enjoy the music, but for recording purposes. And the master volume, I turned it down a little bit because especially when you zoom into certain buildings, the sound and the special effects can be a little bit loud, so we may have to adjust this as we work our way through the gameplay. As far as the gameplay options themselves, we'll be using the English language. That's for any messages and tutorials that might pop up on the screen. Temperature scale, I'm going to change this to Fahrenheit because I'm in the US and the Celsius would do nothing but confuse me because I would have to try to convert that in my head. Also, autosave, I'm going to put this on 30 minutes. And that can certainly be useful if you worry about the game crashing and losing a lot of your time and effort. Scroll on edges refers to the camera. Essentially, as I get to the edges of the screen, that will move the game world and the map around. You can turn that off, certainly, if you don't want that. Dynamic shadows, we will leave on. And the rest of the mouse sensitivities and so on, we will leave alone. Controls, I have not even looked through here. Again, I've only spent 5 to 10 minutes maybe in the game before starting this recording. So we're going to find out a lot of this stuff together. So with that, we're going to back out to the main menu. Actually, did it save the changes I made so far? Let's see. No, it did not. So I forgot to save. I forgot to hit apply there. So lesson number 1, remember to hit apply. Go back out to the main menu. Let's hop back in just to make sure. Okay, yeah. Once you hit apply, everything works as it should. How about that? So for our purposes today, we are going to be using the free mode. So let's hop in here. Farm name, we're just going to keep it very simple. We're just going to call it Knee Pit Gaming. Now we have some options to determine. Fires, accidents, and electricity. Fires and accidents, of course, could slow down or halt our progress as we have damage to our equipment and or buildings. So we'll leave those on and hope we don't have too many of those. And then electricity. This is the one thing that really could start to get on my nerves depending on how it's implemented. We'll see how it goes. But we're going to leave this on. And essentially this only means that we're going to have to place down transformers and power poles to make sure all of our different buildings receive power. So I don't think it's going to be that big a deal, but if there is one thing that I might get tired of pretty quick, it could be the electricity. Other than that, we're going to leave things on medium as far as worker wages, the yields on our farms, production, and so on. That's also going to give us $1 million in cash, which isn't too terribly bad. So we'll take it and see how we can get going. Let's start by taking a look around the game world, take a look at some of the menus, because there's a lot of stuff on the screen that we'll be using for varying degrees during the gameplay. Starting in the top left-hand corner, we have $1 million to get us started. And of course, we'll keep a close eye on that as time goes on. Then we have the amount of staff, and we want to make sure that we don't have too many unassigned staff. That can be a particular issue if you have seasonal employees. So we'll get into that a little bit more later on. Now this area across the top, this is what we'll use to keep a close eye on certain resources that we use a lot of. Now, because I prefer the animals and that's the direction I like to take, particularly with cows, then we're going to have a lot of the products up here that deal with cows, such as grass and silage for food, as well as milk, meat, that kind of thing. So a lot of that stuff we're going to put up here, but you have tons of options. You can see everything in the game you can add up there, and it just makes it much easier to see what you have available to you. And then here we see some of the market items, some things that are worth more right now, some things that are worth less right now. We're not going to worry too much about that because, again, I want to focus on production of cows and all of their products, so we're not going to worry too terribly much about that. Then we've got our basic timing. You notice one of the first things you generally do in any strategy game is pause the game so you can get the lay of the land and make a plan for how you're going to proceed. This is April 1st, and you can see if we mouse over that, it's telling us when winter starts. That's not going to be all that big of an issue for us dealing with the animals because we're not dealing with planting anything. We're not running fields, so we don't have to worry about whether things are going to be able to mature and be gathered before winter arrives. So we do have seasons in the game. There you also see the temperature. Again, that's more important when you're planting and dealing with fields to make sure the minimum temperature is perfect for the plants that you're dealing with. So down the left-hand side of the screen, the very top one, I believe that deals with more of the story mode, so I don't get anything there. Messages, we'll have a few messages, I'm sure, pop up from time to time. We have our different layers. This is just going to make it easier, particularly as our farm grows, to find different things. So if you're wondering, where do I have my warehouses? Are they in good locations? Then this will enable you to pick them out pretty easy. And again, that will be much more important as we grow bigger and bigger. And then we have our warnings, and I'm sure that we're going to see that for things like fires and any accidents that might happen, which hopefully won't be that many. Now, as far as our buildable area to start the game, we have one building, which is our farm owner's house, which also doubles as a bit of a warehouse early on, but it gives you a quick and easy way to buy and sell machines, upgrade. You'll want to definitely upgrade this building from time to time for various reasons, and then we can also buy more land. So we'll be coming back to the farmer's house a little bit more later on as we get closer and closer to needing to expand. But for right now, let's take a look. We have all of this area inside the dotted line. So we have a fair bit of area, But in order to get a better idea of how much that actually amounts to, because you notice that the farm owner's house is huge right now compared to some of the other buildings we're going to see. But there are a few things to keep in mind as we move forward. Okay, we got so much buildable area. We have to keep in mind our money and also roads and electricity. So we talked about electricity a little bit in the options, but we see it here at the very bottom. We'll get to those in just a moment, but we have to make sure every building has electricity and it has workers and access to a road. So those are the things we got to keep in mind as we get started to make sure we get everything we need. Now at the bottom of the screen, some of the most important menu options that we're going to see. Now tucked away in the bottom left-hand corner, we see our settings menu, which again, we've already seen that. It's mostly like the main menu, and then ability to take screenshots. But then we get into the good stuff. Want to plant a new field? This is the screen you're going to need. You can drag and create a new field there. Roads. This is how we're going to do the roads. And we're going to do a lot of gravel roads just mostly for the aesthetic of it. I really enjoy that part of it. To me, being on a farm means that you're going to have dirt roads and gravel roads. So I prefer that, even though the better the road, the better the transportation overall. Then we get into what we'll spend tons of time with. These are all of our buildings. So you have different ways of processing that. We've got housing for the workers. We've got housing for animals, production, warehouses, garages, and so on. Then we've got our electricity. We'll need transformers and poles for that. Then we've got our market. We'll also be spending a lot of time in here. This is where we'll buy and sell goods that we either need for food or sell as our finished products. Now here at the beginning especially, we will not be creating any of the food for our cows. We'll be buying it all from the market, and that's where we'll go to do that. Then we get into another very important menu. So here's where we can get an idea of our money. We can see the money flow in and out, the staff that we have on hand. We can look at the fields we have, the yield, how they're doing, the health, that kind of thing. Then we have our animals, the production manager. This is where we're going to see things like the ability to make cheese or a slaughterhouse, that kind of idea. Any machines that we might have. Early on, we're not going to have any machines because we're not going to be working any fields. Then we have our warehouse manager. This is where we'll be able to see what we have in storage. And then finally, one of the most important portions of the game. This is where you do training. And training is what's going to allow you access to more and more buildings, more and more animals, more production. Everything in the game is unlocked through this. It's unfortunate that it's kind of tucked away a little bit. I wish it had its own icon, honestly, because it's that important. And in here, just to get an idea of what we can use, you've got production management, which will allow you to increase rates of production. That will be awesome. Same thing with warehouse, storage capacities. That is definitely something that will be very useful. Negotiation skills, that's going to help us with the price of buildings, and then sales training for the price of different products and crops. Then we get into reducing bills with financial management. That's awesome. I mean, imagine being able to reduce your bills by 10 to 12%. That is nice. Machinery training increases durability, slows down the wear and tear on that. So labor law training, this is where we can strengthen employees. You can see there, increase the strength for them. Also, I'm sure we're going to get into here somewhere where we can increase their productivity in other ways. Then you got annual agricultural school. This is the most important one for me because it's going to allow me to do a couple of things. Number one is it's going to increase the quality of the harvest by 10%. That is nice going forward, but it's not what we really want right now. What I want right now is the breeding farmers training. That, I believe, again, I don't know for sure because I haven't played the game yet, but I believe, if memory serves me correctly, this is what's going to allow us to breed animals. And that is when we can get into slaughterhouses. Because buying animals and then processing them and selling the meat is still profitable, but not nearly as profitable as we're going to need it to be long term. Also, this is where we're going to unlock the second and third levels for the different animal pens. So for example, right now we can only afford, from a training perspective, the small pens. So if we scroll over a little bit and take a look at the cows, which is what I'm interested in, there's the small cow shed. You can see we can build that for 10 grand. Does not cost very much at all. However, if we want to get the medium cow shed, you can see it's locked behind a couple of trainings. The annual agricultural school and the breeding farmers training. And then if we want to go up even more and go to the large buildings, that we're going to have to get into. Where is it? I'm mousing over these things and can't even find it. But to get into the large buildings for the cows, which are, now I'm a little bit worried. Where is the cow? The large one. There it is. Holy cow, I was beginning to wonder if I was going to be able to find it. You can see it's locked in behind several training modules. So we'll have to keep that in mind as well. So that is why training is so important. So as we scroll down, let's get back down to where we were. There we are. Agricultural school there. Duration is very important. Obviously, money is very important. How much does it cost? That is not nearly as important as how long it takes. And in this case, it takes a full year for this one, which is very unfortunate because I really, really need to get started on that. Also, as we get toward the bottom, there is staff management, where it opens up how many people we can hire. And we're going to need a lot of people on our farm for the different buildings and huts that we're going to have. So you can see the different duration is going to be a huge deal. So right now we can get up to 100, or excuse me, it unlocks up to 150. So I'm guessing probably around 70, 75, maybe even 50 is how many we can hire right now, which is going to be plenty fine for us for the near future. So what I'm going to do, very first thing, before we put down a single building, I'm going to start this, just simply because it takes so long and it is so vital to what we're going to need to do on the farm. So we're going to do that training. And again, we're paused right now. So that'll get started and take one full year. So we'll be multiple videos in by the time that gets done. But now we've reached the point where we have 900 grand left. We need to get started with some production. And I've already mentioned we're going to be dealing with cows, because that is, for whatever reason, what I love doing. Not just cows, but we're going to be dealing with probably some goats, pigs, you name it, we're going to be dealing with it. All right, so to do that, we need a road first. And again, I'm going to stick with gravel roads. We may upgrade these later on, but for the aesthetic of it, and in my head, farms have dirt roads and gravel roads. So we're going to start this and go up. In fact, yeah, we'll go up. That's far enough for right now. We'll see what that gets us, and then we'll work around. I do want to sort of subdivide our farm above and below so that it makes it easier access for the different vehicles that are going to be coming in and out. But for right now, the next thing we need is we're going to need a few buildings. So let's get started putting some cows down. Where is that at? I love the idea of the fish farm. And then you see we have chickens. We're going to get into some chickens, ostriches, and bees. We're going to do all of these at some point or another, or probably most of them, if not absolutely all of them. So here at the very top, you can barely see it. It is a red square at the top of the shed. That needs to be aligned with a road. So I'm going to move this around. Now we could do it like this, where it's aligned with the main road. We don't want that. I prefer to have everything aligned with one of our farm roads. So we're going to do that, and that's just a personal preference on my part. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put 2, in fact, let's do 3. Okay, now the size of this isn't as important. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and take this off pause so the building can begin. But this is going to affect our road structure and our grid network that we have running through here. And this is where it's going to start to become important, just from a visual perspective. And that is under production, like a slaughterhouse. You can see it takes up about the same size as 2 of these buildings. So let's back out. Let's see, what about the milk processing plant? Is it the same thing? Pretty much. Yeah, it's going to take up about 2 of these. So, okay, we'll keep that in mind. But right now, what I want to do, while that's being worked on, you can see these guys, if we zoom in here a little bit, you can see that, oh, these guys are done. In fact, no, let's just let it play out. Remember, we got our training going on. So I'm going to run a road right next to these guys. And so that gets us these 3. Now, what else do we need? Well, we need electricity. We know that. So let's put down the transformer first. And here you can see this is the area it covers. So a pretty large area, honestly. So if I put this guy right up here, he will cover all 3 of these buildings plus some more on either side. So I'm going to put him as tightly to this as I can to keep it out of the way. I don't want to take up any more space with the electricity than I have to. So let's go ahead and put one like right there. And then can I connect? Yes, I can. All right, electricity taken care of for the time being. All right, now what do we get? Next thing I want to do is we're going to need people. Okay, you see here we're going to need workers, and they're going to need someplace to stay. So we're going to hop in here to the social area. We've got permanent employees and seasonal. Seasonal is more for working on the fields. So we're going to hire permanent employees. But first, for saving space, let's go to the production. I do want to get into the slaughterhouse, but we need a little training before we can get to full value on that. So I'm going to do milk processing. Because obviously these cows are going to produce milk for us. And so we are going to need something for that. Let's rotate this thing around. Let's see, where is that going? Let's move our road a little bit. I'm going, well, if I can get this thing to behave with me. All right, put it right there. All right, right there. And then what if I put it right there? You can see it's going to cost us a little bit of money, but it's not much. So we can play around with this a little bit. What else do we have? Fruit, vegetables, frozen food. Oh, frozen food might be pretty good. Can we do frozen meat? I think so, but I didn't see it as it was scrolling by. But maybe we can do that. But for right now, milk processing is what we want. What about some of these others? Storage for silage. Okay, that's good. We may need that. But for right now, milk processing. So I want to put this thing right here. And the reason I am is because it's going to be centrally located because we're going to have cows everywhere. All right, so that was 340,000, which of course is a huge investment for us. Now that I know what we've got there, let's finish up our road network. And let's just go ahead and bring this all the way down. Okay, so our grid is in place right now. Let's see, what else do we need? We need our housing for employees. So permanent employees, we can hold 6 in each one of these. We're going to put the first one right there. And we'll let the construction go ahead and get started. Okay, electricity is no issue for all of these buildings. In fact, I already know we're going to need at least 2 of these. And so I'm going to put another one down right there. So the placement of these is very important because, remember, our workers are going to need some place to sleep and rest. So the closer you can get them to their workplace, the better off you're going to be. So this is going to be for these 3. Not necessarily the best because they're going to have to walk around, but still not too bad. It's not the end of the world, that's for sure. All right, let's go ahead and hire some workers. All right, and what I'm looking for right now, I'm looking for one of 2 things. I'm looking for manufacturing and I'm looking for animals as far as their skill. There's one, manufacturing. And let's see, where are we? Animals. Okay, so I'm going to put you in the first permanent employee house that we had. Okay, let's hop out of here. And then we're going to click on her because I want to do some training. I want her to be maxed out in both categories because endurance is a wonderful thing because it's going to affect how long they can work before they need to rest And now she is fully upgraded. So we're going to put her right here in the first cow shed. We're going to assign. Now, normally you probably want to keep time paused for this, but remember, we got that training that we need to get done, so I'm just going to let things ride sort of right now. And it shouldn't be a huge deal. So let's hire another person. One person per cow shed, so we need 3 people that are great with animals. Let's hope we can find that. Animals, okay, that's good. Best case scenario is animals and endurance, which is what we saw earlier, but this one will have to work. Okay, animals, let's go ahead and max out your training. All right, Toby, we're going to put you on the second one. Okay, now I'm getting a little worried because we need to hire another one, and I don't remember seeing anybody else that had the animal skill set. I do not. All right, so now what I'm looking for is endurance. So if they're not highly skilled, at least they can be great at working for longer periods of time. That's the way I'm viewing this. And we can always swap these out later on. You can release employees. You can move them around to different places. So it's not the end of the world. Let's see. Who do we want? Somebody with endurance. And I see a couple here with endurance. This guy, okay, Dexter is cheaper. And I like that idea. So let's go ahead and do Dexter. All right, Dexter, we want you full endurance. And we're going to put you in number 3. All right, so these guys are all done. Now let's get our processing plant. We need 4 guys in here. So it looks like, okay, it's already set to cow's milk, so we're good. What do we want to do about that, though? Which cheese do we want? We'll have to come in and figure that out based on the market prices. Which one we want to go with. But for right now, we need to try to get some employees in here. So I'm going to choose that second building. And, oh, there's one with animals. Can we get you? Seriously? You went away? Okay, are you still there? Or is this just randomly every time I click on it doing this? It is. Every time I click on it, it's just random, I guess. That's odd. I guess I should have just went ahead and hired him whenever he popped up. Okay, well, never mind. So now we need manufacturing. And I see one guy here automatically. I'm going to put him there. This guy as well that just popped in. I like that. Manufacturing, we'll take you. And then manufacturing, we'll take you. Actually, they're about the same. You're a little bit cheaper. We'll take you. Did anybody with animal experience pop in? I don't see anybody. Okay, now we need to do a little bit of training. Okay, so manufacturing. Max out. Arthur. Max out. Logan, same thing. Imagine being great at manufacturing and beekeeping. I mean, you want to talk about some diverse skill sets. Okay, now let's assign these guys. So we're going to assign Freddie. Let's see, Logan, Annabelle. Okay, all of these guys. So we've got these completely taken care of. Now, what are we going to be producing? So we've got cow cheese, yellow cow cheese, and that might be it. Let's see. Yep, that's it. The rest of it is just the milk that's going to be produced. So cow cheese or yellow cow cheese. Let's get an idea. All right, so cow cheese, $16.64 per kilogram and 26. Now, I don't know exactly what the amounts are going to be for that. In fact, Sell. Okay, we can't do that because we don't have any to sell right now. Okay, I thought I was just going to catch a glimpse there, but it looks like the yellow cow cheese is where we want to be. I'm not going to micromanage this too much and see if the production amounts match that. We're just going to make one and go for it. And I'm going to choose the yellow cow cheese. Okay, now we need to get some cows in here. That makes sense, right? Let's get some cows. I'm going to go ahead and fill it up. We can put 4 in each one. So let's go ahead and do that. We can also put deer in here, which is kind of odd to me. Where I live, there are deer everywhere. Just seems a little bit interesting to me that you could actually put deer in a cage and actually, raise them and breed them and so on, because they are definitely wild animals in this area. Okay, so all of this is going to take a little time. The animals will show up, but now we need food. So what we're looking for is not only to make sure they have enough food, but the quality of their food is where we want it. Now, we want it to be maxed out because we want maximum production, and money is not really a huge issue for us right now. We're just getting started. We're trying to set up some income streams. So I'm going to use grass, which you can see gets us about, maybe a third of the way. Silage gets us about 2/3 of the way. Crops gets us, nearly there. What about, no, same thing. Okay, so we're going to need 4. So I'm going to choose grass, silage, crops, and fodder beets. And the reason I'm doing that is because from the first game, if I remember correctly, crops is sort of a generic term, and they are pretty cheap to purchase. Since we're not going to be growing our own crops right now, they're pretty cheap to purchase. And the fodder beets, I don't know about them, but given the name, I'm hoping they're pretty cheap. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so there's our food. So now we need somewhere to store that food. And that's what it's telling me. Okay, so we have no warehouse and we have no food. Yeah, all right, we're going to take care of that. So next thing we need to get back in here and do is we need to come to the warehouse section. So we got 3 different types of silos. We don't need silos right now because we don't have any sort of grain to put in there. What we are going to have is manure, and we're going to need a barn and a warehouse. So the barn is where we're going to keep things like the grass and the silage. The warehouse will keep, you notice down there toward the bottom, it shows dairy. That's what we're going to need for that, as well as meat when we get a little farther along. And then, of course, the manure storage for our manure and possibly slurry. I'm not sure exactly what they create here. So let's go ahead with the barn. And I'm going to do the barn. Let's see, how do we want to orient this? Part of me wants to do it like this and just keep the roads going up through there. But I think, yeah, I like that idea. Now keep in mind, this road on the side here is not going to be a huge deal right now. But remember, we're going to be expanding, and I sort of put that there as a divider for future reference. So, all right, let's get back. We're going to need a barn. Let's rotate that around. I'm just going to leave that. Can I get, nope, that's as close as I can get it. So we're going to put that right there. And then we're also going to need a warehouse. Can we keep the warehouse right here? That might not be a terrible thing. That's not terrible. Again, this might not be the most efficient layout, but it's not terrible either. So we'll put the warehouse right there. And then we're also going to have, as it starts to rain on us, hope that's not an omen of things to come, we're going to need the manure storage. All right, so we'll put this down here as well. We can put this, where can we fit this in? It doesn't really fit anywhere. But I think we have room for one more house right here if I just drop this right there. So we'll do manure storage right there. Again, maybe not the most efficient possible layout. Now, we have all this set up. We need to order some food. And in order to do that, first thing I'm going to do is line these guys up across the top. So we know we're using grass, And that's going to show us our quantity of grass, silage, and let's see, crops. And we're not using the bio version. We're not worried about organic. And then we needed the fodder beets. So there we go. Okay, those are the initial food. So now we need to come into the market and do the same thing. Let's search for our grass. Now in our, let's see, how much can we handle in here? 50,000 total. And this is going to be dedicated to just for our food. So we're going to use up that space. All right, so grass. So we have 4 of them, but most of what we're going to be using is probably going to be the grass and the silage. So let's do 15,000. And we'll see, how much is that going to cost? Nope, I don't want that. All right, about $4,800, so not very much, and that's going to last us forever in all likelihood. Again, just judging from what it was, at least my memory of what it was in the previous game. And I'm going to do the same thing here, and we're going to see how much does that cost. 9,500. Okay, again, not a huge expense. Should last forever. Let's see, one more. We're going to do crops. And that, once again, 15,000. Oh yeah, that's cost very little money and should last forever. We'll see how close I am on that. The fodder beets. We only have room for 5,000 left in here. All right, so let's see. Okay, 6,500. So that's not necessarily all that cheap, but if we happen to run out of those, then I think we'll be fine. So right now, you see we have nothing. We're waiting for the delivery to show up. All right, so where are we? What is it fussing at us about right now? All right, starving animals. Yes, I know. We're getting food in here and food. Okay, so it's just giving us reminders about food right now. But that should be a huge amount of food for the future. So let's go ahead and build this road while we're waiting for our food delivery. All right, there we go. So food delivery right there. Now, one of the things that you'll want to know going forward, in fact, that might be some of our food right there. You'll want to know what the ratio is. In other words, for milk production, in this case, cheese production, how many cows will you need in order to keep this field and working at maximum efficiency? I don't know the answer to that. And honestly, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time trying to figure it out. What we'll do is we'll start putting as much cow and milk production into this as we can. And when we figure out that it's too full and it's starting to overflow, then we'll look at expanding. But I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time working with spreadsheets in this to figure it out. Okay, I noticed at the top, that's why I put these up there. I noticed our delivery was made. So now these guys should start coming around and filling up the food. You can see these guys are already running around. So then we'll get production started. Now, once production starts, well, we got a few more things I want to add up here. So we know these guys are going to create milk. So we want cow's milk. And again, not the organic version. So cow's milk up there. And also manure, I believe, is what we'll have. Manure and liquid, okay, or slurry. Okay, so the liquid manure. And these are two things we can sell. And then, of course, that leads us to one final thing, which is our final product, the yellow cow cheese. Now, at some point, we should be able to automate this, meaning that we should be able to sell these two products as they're made and not have to worry about manually selling and buying things so much. But I do believe that is behind some training, I believe. And again, we'll find out more about this as we continue along. All right, so how are we doing here? These guys have not come to get any food yet. Where are you guys? I see a guy walking here. Let's speed up time a little bit. We have people. We have cows. Okay, there we go. I saw somebody come in and out of there. Yeah, there we go. All right, we're getting there. I'm going to fast forward a little bit here. Again, in reality, if you want maximum efficiency, you want to minimize the time that these guys spend walking around and maximize the time they get to spend in their particular work area. So this guy, okay, you can see we've already got some milk that has been created. Now, you notice at the top, we still see 0. The reason for that is that it's still located here within the cow shed. It hasn't been taken over to storage yet. Okay, that's good. We still have 344 grand left. Do we have any production going? We do not. And you see we have nothing in here, so no milk has been delivered, no cheese has been created just yet. All right, so yeah, this is just taking a little while. Now, I do prefer, as far as camera angles, I do prefer the top down. That gives me my best shot at it. So at getting the information I need. What do you need now? No warehouse. Is that not good? Is that, it says no warehouse, but what does that actually mean? I think we have one, don't we? Manure? Is it not? Oh, no electricity. Okay, now I've got you. Okay, makes more sense now, doesn't it? What am I going to do with this? Because what I want to, you can see that's just outside that. And in the future, I'm going to want to change this out. No doubt. But for right now, it doesn't cost a whole lot of money, so I'm just going to do one of these. I am going to... Where can I put this? I'm trying to catch as much of this stuff as I can. But it really just does not want me to put it where I want to put it. So let's just get you out of the way. I'm going to put you like right down here. For right now, just so that we can get this done. No? Okay, it did connect it. At first, it made a sound like it did, and then it kept showing me the icon. So that is probably a placement we're going to want to change in the future. But for right now, it'll get us what we need in this general area. I thought it should actually cover everything, but it didn't. Okay, there we saw more milk being produced. These guys are still... What are you waiting for? Oh, I have not selected any type of food. Well, yeah, that will do it. So let's do that. And for some reason in my head, I thought it was going to do the same thing for all of these, even though that clearly has not happened. So that's my bad. I'm so sorry about that. All right, so now production should get up and running here very shortly. In fact, let's fast forward just to make sure. I see people starting to stir. Yeah, there we go. Milk is being produced. I'm seeing icons. These worrying icons are leaving. Yeah, there we go. Now we have some milk in here. And production is underway. So milk is in there. So we should see the cheese whenever it's taken to storage, because one of the workers should hop out of here, take it to the warehouse. And when he does that, sure enough, there we go. So 115. So it's working. So now the question is, let's just watch this for a moment. Because here at the beginning, we're trying to keep track. All right, there is the amount of cow's milk that we have. Does this reach 0? All right, so whoop, and by the time it reached 0, we had more in here. So let's follow that once again. And it's getting down to 0. Okay, it's at 0 now. Okay, so it took a minute for that. So really, we could put maybe a few more of these cow barns in here to take care of this production. Yeah, maybe. I mean, but honestly, it's not looking too bad. Because again, what I'm looking for is when does this reach 0? And when does production stop? What we want is to keep production moving at all times, and so that it never runs out of milk. And this green bar just continually moves. So that's why I'm giving it a few minutes here toward the end of the video, because this is one thing I want to have settled. Because, and you can see, in fact, this is doing really well. In fact, it's building up right now. So that is very good. So we're going to slow things back down now. So today's video, a little longer than I would normally prefer, but we got a lot done today, and we're learning as things go along. So we're taking milk, we're making it into cheese, and that's going to be our primary source of income. So when we come back next time, we'll sell our first batch of cheese, see how much money that gives us, and get an idea of what type of money flow we're going to have here for the time being. But everything is looking good. We've got storage, we've got production, and we're on our way to building our very own farm. So that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and stick around for more Farm Manager 2021.